Happy Monday, everybody. Monday starts the Thanksgiving week here in the United States. Welcome to Prop It Up. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. Guys, we have a jam-packed show. We're going to go over an amazing football game tonight, Andrew. The Eagles and the Chiefs, Monday Night Football. I mean, this has got to be the best Monday Night Football game of the year. So we're going to break it down for you. We're going to go over the passing props, the rushing props, the receiving props. I've got a team total I like. And then we're going to look towards this next upcoming week of NFL for some props we want to see. We have to get out ahead of these props because it starts immediately with multiple games on Thursday. Then we got a Friday game. So we got to be prepared. So we're going to break down Monday Night Football and then get right into it. And we're going to start off with the passing props. And then, guys, we have an amazing special. We do this once a year at Wager Talk. It's a great special. We're going to get into it. Let's start breaking down passing props. And guys, if you could please hit that like button and give us a comment and tell us what your best play is for tonight. So Andrew, let's get right into it. Passing props. We got two of the best quarterbacks in the league. What do you like for passing props tonight?
Yeah, Andy, what a game for us to have to talk about here. It's definitely better than some of the ones we've had here on prime time, no doubt about it. And you know, a lot of times I talk about how sometimes my quarterback props can correlate to running back props and things like that. And well, looking at this Philadelphia Eagles team, they rank number 1 as far as rushing yards allowed. Not number 32, number 1. So they have a great rush defense. What does that mean? Well, I think KC will have to throw the ball a lot, have to dump the ball off a lot. And I'm looking at the attempts, actually, for Patrick Mahomes. And usually I'm a completions guy. But with Patrick Mahomes, you know, I think that they're going to be just firing only really passing. I don't really see a lot of rushing coming from this Chiefs team. Their running offense hasn't even looked great recently, and they've kind of been just choosing to dump it off a lot more. And Philadelphia, I feel like because they've been so good against the run, but they've also been getting exposed through the air. And the thing is about this KC team, you look at how many weapons they have. It's not just one or two guys. There's so many teams where I talk about their star players getting such a huge percentage of the target share. Right now with the Chiefs, they're at a point where there's a handful of targets. There's guys downfield. There's guys they're going to catch short passes. There's guys all around. They're going to be able to make plays for this Chiefs team. So it's very simple to me. When I look at one team going head-to-head against an opponent like Philadelphia that is so good against the run, early on, Casey's going to find that that's not working. We have to throw the ball. So I think looking at Patrick Mahomes over on his pass attempts is a good play. Now, Andy, because I like that pass attempts prop, and I think it's going to be throwing the ball a lot, it takes me back to one of my new favorite plays. Patrick Mahomes interception. Last Monday, we cashed an interception prop. And this week, I think we're going to go over 0.5 interceptions for Mahomes. It's at minus 125. He's been slinging it. You know, he's been going downfield quite a bit more over the past few weeks. And he's kind of been getting caught here. And this Philadelphia Eagles team is notorious for a big interception, especially in the second half. So I would not be surprised to see their defense come up and make a big play. As far as Jalen Hurts is concerned, I kind of have a lean towards his passing touchdowns over, just because I think you get a lot of value on that because of the fact that, you know, Hurts himself or just the running game in general is always there. So I kind of like that because I do think this is going to be a game. It's going to be a little more high scoring compared to more primetime games we've had. And like I said, you know, you look at Swift, you look at the running game, you look at Hurts, you know, on the 1 yard line, you know, they aren't throwing the ball, but because of that factor, you get a really good price on Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So I don't really have anything locked in for Hurts, but if I was going to play anything for him, I'd look for that over 1.5.
Yeah, I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes. I struggled with this category. I think plus 170 is a good price on over 2.5 passing touchdowns. He's only done it twice this year, but he did it against the Bears and the Chargers. Combined, those two teams have given up 38 passing touchdowns this year, and the Eagles have given up 19. This is an Eagles team that is the best against the run right now, but their secondary is vulnerable. My only concern is, does he have the weapons in the passing game to do it? Because those wide receivers aren't separating from anybody. But Andrew, like we saw yesterday, when you go up against a secondary that's vulnerable, it can make mediocre players look really good, a la Jordan Love. And that passing game, I'm serious. Like, if you were to just watch that first game, you would be like, Jordan Love, is this guy, what, a top 5 quarterback in the league? It's like, no, he's playing a historically bad pass defense. So this plus 170 has my attention. If this was like plus 130, nah, but boy, plus 170 to throw 3 touchdowns in a game that I think is going to be close throughout, I really like. And interesting, you talked about passing attempts for Mahomes. I'm looking at it for Jalen Hurts, gone over in 6 out of 7 games. My only reservation about this one is the one game he went under was against the Cowboys, who are second in completions allowed, and the Chiefs are third in completions allowed. I still think that the Eagles probably are going to have success on offense, both running and passing. I think this Eagles offense is just kind of almost, I don't know, I don't want to say like completely defensive proof, but I think they can take apart these good defenses. So Patrick Mahomes has my attention, 2.5 passing touchdowns, and Jalen Hurts over 21.5 pass attempts. So guys, mention, leave your comments in the section. I got to shout out a couple people from Friday who left some comments and left some great winners. Anthony said, take Deebo Samuel over 12.5 rushing yards. He only had 63. Cash that one. True said, take Pollard anytime touchdown. Finally, Pollard gets a touchdown. John Rivas took Wicks 25 plus receiving yards, Ayuk 60 plus, and Nakua 60 plus. That cash. The big winner, though, Andrew, is got to be Lulu. Takes David Montgomery to get 75 plus yards. He has 76. Takes that with Montgomery anytime touchdown. He gets that late. And he took it with the Lions money line. He cashes that late. That's a plus 525 cash.
Nice
all
hit.
Hitting right there at the end. That is your comment section winner play of the day. So leave your comment, guys. Let us know what you like for Monday Night Football. And I have to tell everyone, we talked about the special that we have going this week. Once a year, it's Thanksgiving week. This is for every handicapper, myself and Andrew. You get a 7-day pass, and it's knocked all the way down to $69. It's $10 a day for the next 7 days, and it's one of the most popular specials that we run. There really isn't a reason to buy just one play this week. Just lock in your 7-day pass. If you want to grab all of Andrew's plays, lock it in now. You're going to get every single sport, every single percentage. That includes NBA, NHL, NFL. We have tons of games and sports this week. You can lock it in 7 days for $69. There's no promo code needed. It's the Thanksgiving week special, one of the most popular ones we get. So, Andrew, for example, I have an NHL play that is up today. That play alone is $25. Don't just go get the play. Go use that 7-day pass. So, Andrew, before we get into the next props, tell everyone what you have up and where we can find you at.
Well, of course, we're talking about all kinds of props for tonight's game, but I do have one that I'm singling out that's available at WagerTalk.com. NHL is a very interesting schedule this week due to Thanksgiving. So there's 2 games, there's 2 days off. That's Tuesday and Thursday in the NHL. So there's going to be some stacked cards, including tonight, Andy. So I'm involved with that. And I actually have 2 prop bets to have my eye in the NHL. So look, we always talk about it. And I know that you're similar to me. We'd rather you guys join us for something like this, a 3-day or a 7-day pass, get to know how we handicap, get to know the other sports we're interested in, right? Like UFC is only 1 day of the week, so if you forget to buy that UFC package, you don't get those plays. You get a 7-day pass, you get every single play sent right to your email. It's awesome.
Yeah, take advantage of that, guys. There's no promo code needed. It's on our player profile page. So just go to Andrew McGinnis at WagerTalk.com or Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Lock that in. Let's make this a profitable Thanksgiving week. Andrew, let's jump into the rushing props. We got a couple really good defenses against the run. What did you find for these rushing props?
Yeah, Andy, I just want to say those turkeys won't pay for themselves. We got to cash some tickets. We got to get the family over, have a great Thanksgiving. At least in America. Maybe I'll have to fly to one of the Wager Talk family members. Maybe I'll be at your place, Andy, because it's Canadian Thanksgiving here, man. That happened in October. But look, I'm looking at an attempts and a yards prop. I like the over attempts for Jalen Hurts. Current number is 8.5. I think coming off the bye week, feeling fresh, definitely plays a huge factor in that. But one thing I've noticed going through a lot of the games that Hurts has either kind of laid back and not rushed very many times, Andy, versus the games that he's really stepped things up in, it's been all close games. Games against, teams that they've battled against, teams that maybe have caught them off guard, Dallas, Miami. Those are the games that we're seeing Jalen Hurts go over his rushing attempt prop. You know, when he's being pressured, when they need that out of him in a really tough game where their opponents are putting up a ton of points. And let's not forget, obviously, KC's defense, I believe, is continuously underrated. Nobody's giving them the credit, but I think it's time to realize that this is not the same KC team that we saw last year, right? This is not the team that's putting up a ton of points, but they're utilizing their defense and making teams have to be creative. So I've chose not to look towards the yards just because I think that with Jalen, you know, he can get those like 2 or 3 yards, you know, bump into his O line and they kind of just reset and run a new play. And for that reason, I think it is kind of nice to just look towards the attempts, but there's no doubt about it. He certainly will break off every now and then for a big play. And then, look, I talked about that great that Eagles defense, which is why I want to look towards Pacheco under 48.5 for him. If I was looking at Pacheco today, I would look towards his receiving, not his rushing. I think he could catch a few balls here, but that 48.5 number to me is too big for a team that I expect to be catching a lot of balls. And like I said, I like the attempt prop over for Mahomes. So if that's the case, I don't really like the guy with the highest rushing number for the Chiefs. So I'll take the under for Pacheco.
Yeah, I almost got to the window on Pacheco under. Man, 48.5 is low. I'm with you, though. It could be a McKinnon type of game out of the backfield. There could be a lot more catches. I like Jalen Hurts over 8.5 rush attempts. Love that both teams are coming off of a bye, and I love that Jalen Hurts. It's funny, in the NFL, Andrew, sometimes teams will get a bye week, and it'll be like the momentum buster. It's like, we've won like 3 straight. We're healthy. We don't need a bye. And then other teams, it's like, whoa, what a perfect week for a bye. I think this is the perfect week for a bye for Jalen Hurts. His knee was clearly bothering him. They are in the middle of a brutal schedule, but then, man, they get the Giants 2 out of the last 3 weeks. So talk about a nice schedule going into the playoffs. But he gets a week to rest, and he has gone over this 8.5 rush attempts against Dallas, against Miami, against the Rams, against Tampa Bay, and against Minnesota. And don't forget, those tush pushes count as rush attempts. So I feel like you're almost guaranteed 3 or 4 rush attempts just on those. Yep. And then if a play breaks down, even if he just kind of runs for like 1 or 2 yards, that counts as a rush attempt. So he's getting over this total. And I went back and looked in the Super Bowl, he had 15 rush attempts. So I think this number is low, and I think you're going to see 3 or 4 of the tush pushes tonight. And if you have this bet, isn't it great if it's like 3rd and 2 and they try it and they get like 1 yard and then they just do it again and get the first down? It's like, wow, I just rush attempts off that one. So Jalen Hurts over his rush attempts. There's no holding back in this game. This isn't going to be one of those games where he throws the ball away if he has a chance to tuck it and run. So that's my favorite rushing prop.
And for people out there watching, Andy and I do not discuss our plays before the show starts. So like the fact that you and I both really like that one, and like I know we're just talking one game today, I think that's pretty cool. I'm with you on that one, and I think that like you said, the fact that you have a guy that does those 1 and 2 yard, the tush push, or the what are they calling it, the brotherly
shove.
Yeah, I mean those count as rush attempts. You know, that's why I'm interested in that versus the yards.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to receiving props. Interesting game for receiving props. What did you have circled in this one?
I'm going to try and be really bold here, Andy, and I'm going to take the under on A.J. Brown. I know. I know. It's tough, but I think I've had a good read this season on stepping in front of some of these big names, and I think it's kind of a hold your breath for the entire game. So you have to be like a Michael Phelps type athlete to be able to kind of withstand a pick like this. But this is a Chiefs secondary that, as I've said, has gone underrated all season long. I think that the way they've been able to shut down top guys on the opposition, I can see this being a Devonta Smith game, honestly. And you look at some of the guys that the Chiefs have been able to shut down, like Hill, Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson, even earlier in the year, some big names that I think that this is KC Chiefs team has been able to shut down. And really, it's guys like AJ Brown that mostly just catch deep passes. Like if you look at a lot of the ways that AJ Brown has gone over his passing yards, it's been like these highlight reel plays. And I think that with the Chiefs, they're going to just try and make the Eagles beat them over the top, beat them with these 10 to 15 yard plays, limit the long passes. And I know that sounds way easier than it actually is to do, but the number I'm seeing right now is 80.5. I see some books had 81.5. I'm going under there on AJ Brown. I think he goes under, and Rashid Rice, I think that he goes over his number. He's someone that, first of all, just has a nice number there. It's not too big to look at, but his targets have been up. He's coming off a performance where he had just 2 targets. It was, I think, like an 11-yard performance. But before that, we saw 5, 4, 6, 5. This is a guy getting involved in the Chiefs offense, and he's pretty much the second favorite target now after Travis Kelce for Patrick Mahomes. So like I stated earlier, this is a Chiefs offense that has been really, really spread out. It hasn't been just one guy really making the plays. Obviously, we know how great Travis Kelce is, but when I look around right now and I look at these props for the receiving, you see so many names, and those big names are guys that I don't really want to be involved in. Like I said, I think it could be a Devontae Smith game if I'm looking towards the under on AJ Brown. And I also mentioned to you that I think that we could actually see Isaiah Pacheco catching some passes if I don't expect him to be running the ball. So what's interesting is his number is only 16.5. And with how athletic he is, I think he only really needs like 2 catches to be able to get there when I look at him. So there's so many options in this game, so many guys that could be passed to. And like I said, I expect a high scoring game. So it's kind of bold taking the under on a guy like AJ Brown, but there's so many guys each team has that, this guy could have 65, 70 yards and the Eagles could still have a great game. But I think my best bet would probably be Rice over 43.5 yards here, Andy.
I like that one. I'm looking at these names, and I mean, there's huge names, and there's names you're like, oh man, like really? Kadarius Toney, 6.5. Kenneth Gainwell, 6.5.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so I'm looking at Travis Kelce, and he's been pretty bad the last couple weeks. I mean, there's no denying it. He's 3 catches for 14 yards against the Dolphins, 6 catches for 58 yards in a loss against Denver. And the books are hanging this incredibly high number at 75.5. And I don't really understand it because he's only gone over twice. So are they doing it because they think he's going to, they think this is a cash cow that everyone's going to take over on Travis Kelce, or is something weird going on here? I just can't ignore how bad this Eagles secondary can be against the opposing team's best receiver. CeeDee Lamb had 11 catches for 191 yards against this defense. John Dotson had 8 catches for 108 yards against this defense. Tyreek Hill had 11 catches, 88 yards. Garrett Wilson had 8 catches for 90 yards, with Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. So when I'm looking at this Kansas City team and I'm saying, okay, if they're going to have success throwing the ball, who's it going to be to? It's going to be to Travis Kelce. And in this game, you don't think Travis Kelce wants to put up a good showing against the Eagles, his brother's team? I just think this is a Travis Kelce game where he is heavily involved. He puts on a big show, and I just don't think that the Eagles have what it takes to stop him. This is a team that gives up 48.6 yards per game to tight ends, and they haven't really played the elite of the elite tight ends. So it's chalky. It may be a little bit obvious, but I do think that Travis Kelce is going to 2 bad weeks in a row. I think it's time for him to have one of those amazing, like 10 catches for 110 yards type of performance, especially if they get into a hurry up mode at the end of the half or at the end of the game. He's going to gobble up some catches on that one. So I kind of made fun of him earlier. I will bring up this parlay piece, Andrew. So if you can find it and you're looking for a parlay piece that's around minus 220, Kadarius Toney to have a catch, he has at least one in every game. Like some games he has just one, but he does get at least one catch. And against the secondary, you got to believe with his speed, he's going to get open. So that would be something else to look at. And then I do have to bring up the Eagles team total, and you can grab it under 21. You can get 20.5. And I love it. They've gone over this team total in every game except one, and that was the bizarre Jets game where Jalen Hurts completely lost his mind and forgot how to play football there for a little bit. The Chiefs have held every team except the Lions and the Broncos under. I'm just a believer in this Eagles offense. And we keep talking about the brotherly shove and the tush push. How many drives get extended just because of that? How many times do they get the ball inside the 2 yard line? It's just a guaranteed touchdown. So I think this Eagles team total, if you give me under 21 on this offense and it's not like a blizzard or, some crazy weather, I just think they're going to go over pretty much every time. They've done it almost every game except the Jets this season. So I thought that was a really, really great team total to play in a game that I think is going to be pretty close. So guys, don't forget to hit the like button, leave us a comment, tell us your best bet for tonight, and don't forget, please take advantage of that 7-day pass for $69. We run it once a year. It's a Thanksgiving special. We're celebrating the holidays and want you to get the best deal possible. You don't need a promo code. This is a 7-day pass, discounted down to $69. It doesn't get much better than this. You get all sports, all percentages. It works on any handicapper. You can use myself. You can use Andrew. I'm coming off a 10-2 weekend across all sports. So you're going to get NBA, NHL, NFL, all those sports that we've been running really hot in. So take advantage of that. Andrew, let's get into props we hope to see. And there's no time to waste. 3 games on Thursday, game on Friday. So we need to look ahead and make sure we're ready for when these numbers come out. So what props are you looking forward to coming up for this next week?
Yeah, I got to start with the Packers. I'm looking at Luke Musgrave, tight end, young guy there for the Packers, someone that I think that is going to continue to flourish and do very well towards the end of this season or second half of the NFL season here. When you talk about Romeo Doubs, you talk about Christian Watson, those guys are going to get the high numbers, right? Those guys are going to get the high reception numbers, the receiving yards. I think Musgrave is still going to have a very light and favorable number. And he's coming off, I'd say, one of his best games. Obviously, his first career touchdown, 64 yards, targeted 4 times. But the thing is with him is that when he is targeted, it's a pretty deep pass. And it seems like Jordan Love has really gotten familiar with him. And in key moments, he's targeting him. And I think they obviously have a big game against the Lions. The Lions defense, they cause a lot of pressure. We're going to see a little bit of a different Jordan Love this next week than we saw, unfortunately, against the Chargers defense. So I think Luke Musgrave is going to have to be kind of a guy that sticks out and makes himself available for Jordan Love. So I want to get a really good number for him. If I can get one in like the 20s or 30s, I'll definitely be looking towards that. Maybe mid 20s, something I want to kind of pull trigger on. I'm really curious the number we're going to get for Sam Howell coming into this one against the Cowboys. I did play it to the over and lost his over passing yards. But this is the thing. We've always talked about these Cowboys games and when they play weaker opponents, Dak Prescott looks like the man. And then the next time he plays someone that's really good, it doesn't look as good. But let's not forget either. I feel like in these games, their opponents' quarterbacks play really well too, because they literally cannot run the ball at all. They have to throw the ball the entire game. There's no chance. I mean, after the first quarter, if the Cowboys have put up 14 points, what's the point in Washington running the football? I mean, at this point, you have to throw the ball. You have to do what you can through the air to try and come back in the ball game. So I think Sam Howell might be worth a look there. And I've talked about how I've had the best read, I think, on Derrick Henry, Andy, and unfortunately, these haven't been best bets for clients, but I think he goes over this week. He's playing a Carolina Panthers team, and, the Panthers are a team that you want to be betting against when you're taking rushing players all week long. I mean, this is a team that pretty much I've been scouting against them just to bet their opponent's best running back, and it's worked. It's hit. Most teams are getting up big on them, especially early in the games, and utilizing their run. And as I've talked about with a guy like Derrick Henry, he's pretty much feasted on really good matchups and not done very well against good defenses. So this is one that I think he certainly will show up. But there's so many good matchups here. I'm waiting on some injury reports, but I'd say the one I'm looking forward to the most, and obviously it is going to be a game in a couple of days, is that Musgrave one, man, because I think everyone's talking about Christian Watson and the Packers coming off that big game against the Chargers. Look, I'm not buying it. Look, I'm a Packers fan. I'm happy. But when it comes down to it, they played the 32nd ranked team. It's not like it's that big of a deal. It's not like they're really impressing me. And I think he's going to have to be a huge factor. And also, real quick, I wanted to mention this. We talk all the time about the Chargers. How about the Buccaneers receiving defense, pass defense? It's not good at all. I mean, They got Gardner Minshew and the Colts coming in to put up points. And I know it's your Colts. I'm curious what you think about that one. But, man, the Chargers are a team that I've picked on quite a bit here. It's time to start fading this pass defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well.
Yeah, there's a couple ones you I took the words right out of my mouth. It's now undefeated. Every quarterback that has played the Chargers has gone over their passing total. We talked about it with Jordan Love. I don't know why I didn't play that as a 5% play. It was the most obvious play on the board, and I'm sitting here left with no record of it on Wager Talk for our bets. So yeah, give me Lamar Jackson over his passing yard. Just rinse and repeat. I hope we haven't jumped the shark, but that passing total on Jordan Love was ridiculous. Like when he was completing passes, Andrew, those guys were open by like 5 yards. They didn't have anybody around them. So that's when you have to look at. You mentioned the Packers, and on a short week, give me David Montgomery over his rushing total. The rushing total was under 60 against the Bears. That's a really good Bears rush defense. He had 76 yards. He got 4 more carries than Jahmyr Gibbs. And this is a Packers defense that gives up 130 yards a game rushing. So you got a short week. I think that tends to favor the running backs. I think the defenses are going to be a little bit more tired. And you get that early game. I could just see this being a big-time David Montgomery game. So I want to cash on him to get Thanksgiving started. I think we got to look at Christian McCaffrey over his rushing yards. If Geno Smith is out, you mentioned the injuries. If Geno Smith is out, that means Drew Lock is going to be starting for Seattle. They are not going to move the ball against San Francisco with Drew Lock. They're just not. He had 21 carries for 78 yards against a good Tampa rush defense. But again, you mentioned they're just terrible through the air, and he still got 78 yards. Seattle's rush defense is struggling big time. But if Geno Smith is out, that is a Christian McCaffrey game if I've ever seen it. And then, Justin Fields. If DJ Moore isn't open, he tucks it and runs. It's just like it's DJ Moore and nothing. He had 160 some odd yards passing and 96 of it went to DJ Moore. He had over 104 yards rushing on 18 carries. He's got to be one of the leaders in rush attempts for this week. He's a quarterback. So the Vikings, they're a good defense, and I just think if DJ Moore isn't open, he's just going to tuck it and run. So I wonder what the books are going to do on this one. The books, they have to put this at like 60, don't they? He just runs. And what do you put his rush attempts at? Like 10 and a half, 11 and a half? I think the books have to be aggressive on this. Otherwise, it's going to be jumping on Justin Fields all day. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
Well, it's a good point. He only has one receiver, apparently, right? There's only really one guy he's going to. So I think with DJ Moore, he's been the example of you look at his prop number and I think you scratch your head and say to yourself, is this too high, right? Is this too much for this team? But that's where target share is really important. That's where targets in general are really good to look at, because if a team is struggling, if a team's not playing well, it doesn't really matter in the prop betting world. How many touches is this individual getting compared to his peers? And then, like you said, it's either the quarterback running or DJ Moore catching the ball. So I'm with you, Andy. And I think this is one of those things where we just don't really overthink it and look towards the rushing yards. And with him, would you look more towards yards than attempts, or would attempts appeal to you?
Oh, man. I think it's going to be what numbers the book set. I think I would probably want the yards. If he rips off one long one, which he's more than capable of. If they do put his number at 64 and a half and he rips off a 30-yarder, you're halfway there, which he can absolutely do. So one broken play and he rips a long one, and then you're really happy that you took the yards. So I would lean towards the yards. But it's also, we talked about Jalen Hurts using his rush attempts because he gets more attempts with those short little brotherly shoves. Justin Fields doesn't really have that. He's going to be more of the eat up the big chunks of yardage. So I think I would rather
he scrambles, he scrambles. He runs. He actually is running for the purpose of going for 20 yards, right?
Absolutely. So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for us on Prop It Up. Remember, if you had a really, really good weekend, protect those units. Don't go too crazy tonight. Make sure you're guaranteeing yourself profit. Don't overexpose yourself. If you had a rough weekend, Don't make it worse. You do not have to go all in just because it's a big time Monday Night Football. Let's practice responsibility with our bank rolls. Use that special, guys. 7 days for $69. It's one of the best specials we run all year. Get you 7 days of your favorite handicapper. No promo code needed. All sports, all percentages. You can use that at Andrew McGinnis's Wager Talk profile. You can use it at Andy Lang's profile on WagerTalk.com. Good luck. Let's have a great Thanksgiving week. Have a great holiday. Be safe, and we will see everyone next time on Prop It Up.